In 1474, Christopher Columbus read the statement by Eratosthenes, "If the distance were not an obstacle, we might easily pass by sea from Spain to India." If Eratosthenes were correct, Southeast Asia, the Indies, would lie 13,000 miles west of Europe. Ships of the 1400s could travel farther than ships during ancient Greek times, but even the best European ships couldn't sail 7,000 miles. But not everybody agreed with Eratosthenes' value of 25,000 miles for the distance around the Earth. Many Greek scholars believed his figure far too large. It made Greece a small and unimportant country on the face of a vast Earth. Posidonius, a Greek scholar, redid the calculations. He arrived at a more satisfying figure of 18,000 miles. The smaller number reduced the surface area of the Earth by about half its actual value. About AD 150, Ptolemy, a Greek astronomer, wrote a geography of the known world. This Ptolemy is not the same as Ptolemy III, the Macedonian general who put Eratosthenes in charge of the library at Alexandria. Ptolemy the astronomer lived about 350 years after Ptolemy III. In his geography, Ptolemy quoted the smaller figure for the distance around the Earth. Despite its errors, Ptolemy's book remained the best one available for 1,000 years. People came to believe the Earth was 18,000 miles around. The land route from Europe to the Indies was 12,000 miles. Sailing around Africa made the trip even longer. Suppose the Earth were only 18,000 miles around, as in Ptolemy's book. The Indies would then lie only 6,000 miles to the west of Europe across the Atlantic Ocean. Could the distance be reduced still further? Christopher Columbus thought so. Outlying islands would make the distance even less. Perhaps the Indies lay only 3,000 miles west of Europe. Ships that we have today can make that voyage, Columbus decided. From then on, the idea would not die. He would reach the Indies by sailing west. Christopher Columbus, Cristoforo Colombo in Italian, was born in Genoa, Italy in 1451. He went to sea at an early age. His voyages took him down the African coast. He also sailed far to the north to Iceland. There he learned of the legendary Vikings and their stories of land far to the west. Columbus hadn't learned to read or write as a child. He learned those skills as an adult when he became interested in sea exploring. He collected the best maps, charts, and travel books. He read Marco Polo's book time and time again and made notes in the margin. In the book, Marco Polo described a great ocean that lay to the east of China. If the world were a sphere, then the ocean to the east of China could be the same as the ocean to the west of Spain. Columbus sought an audience with King John of Portugal. His country had the biggest ships and the best navy. "I will reach the Indies by sailing west," Columbus explained. "We all know the world is round. Therefore, China and India can be reached just as well by sailing west as by sailing east." King John considered the matter. His advisors were against the plan. "Our ships will soon reach the tip of Africa. We are too close to success in that direction to back an untried venture in another direction." King John decided against sending his ships in two different directions. Columbus then went to Spain. Spain at that time was a collection of smaller kingdoms. The two strongest rulers were King Ferdinand of Aragon and his wife Queen Isabella of Castile. He explained his plan to the two monarchs. "We can reach the Indies before the Portuguese," he said. "The shortest route to the Indies is not around Africa, but across the Atlantic." Columbus had piercing gray eyes and flaming red hair. He spoke with fierce determination. He had total confidence in his plan. But despite Columbus's best efforts, it took 5 years before the two monarchs made up their minds. In 1490 they called him to their court for their decision. The answer was no. Portugal and Spain may have turned him down, but there were other countries, England, France, and Italy. He asked for an audience before their rulers. Then Queen Isabella called for him again. "We have changed our minds," she said. "We are pleased to sponsor your voyage." After 18 years of trying, he had his exploration fleet. But Spain only gave him 3 small ships, the Santa Maria, the Nina, and the Pinta. The Santa Maria was 117 feet long. The other 2 were only 50 feet long. The ships were manned by a ragtag collection of seamen. Some, like the 3 Pinzon brothers, were seasoned sailors. Others were common criminals. On August 3rd, 1492, friends and relatives of the crew stood at the dock at Palos. They wept as the ships put out to sea. They didn't expect to see either ships or men again. Columbus sailed south on a shakedown cruise to the Canary Islands. There he stayed almost a month making changes to the rigging of the ships. He also took aboard enough food and water to last for 40 days. By sailing south to the Canaries, Columbus was able to find winds that blew to the southwest. In addition to these favorable winds, ocean currents carried the ships along in the direction he wanted to go. The voyage itself was uneventful except for the frightened and suspicious crew. They threatened mutiny at the slightest sign of trouble. For 30 days they were out of sight of land. They became more and more jittery. On the morning of October 11th, sailors noticed twigs floating on the crest of waves. Huge flocks of birds could be seen flying to the southwest. Columbus took heart. Land could not be far off. That night he stood on deck of his command ship, the Santa Maria. His eyes strained into the darkness. His ears listened for the sound of waves breaking upon shore. Shortly after midnight, light was sighted, a campfire. "Praise be to God," Columbus said. "Take in the sails. We'll wait for daylight to make land." The next morning, Columbus stepped ashore onto a small island. He fell to his knees, kissed the earth, and gave thanks to God. He named the island San Salvador, which means the Savior. From San Salvador, he sailed on to discover Cuba and Hispaniola, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic. Columbus believed the islands to be the outlying islands of the Indies. He thought he'd reached his goal. He gave the island the name of the West Indies. He called the natives who lived there Indians. But something was wrong, terribly wrong. Instead of fabulous cities of ancient China, India, or Japan, he found only endless miles of sand and poor natives. Rather puzzled, he set back to Spain. The homeward voyage proved more difficult than the original trip. His ships fought strong headwinds and contrary currents. Finally, he sailed north and caught a west wind bearing toward Europe. Columbus reported to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. The Spanish monarchs decided to start a colony in the new land. The next year, Columbus returned to the West Indies. This time, he commanded 17 ships carrying 1,500 people. He served as governor of the Spanish colony. He helped start Santo Domingo, the first permanent European settlement in the New World. Columbus proved a much better sailor and navigator than a government official. His sailing kept him away from his political duties. Those he put in charge while he was away ruled even more poorly. Conditions became so bad that the colonists complained to Spain. A royal official investigated. He ordered Columbus bound in chains and sent back to Spain. Christopher Columbus, Spain's most famous and successful explorer, arrived in court in chains. That sad event was soon forgotten, however, and Columbus once again set out on a voyage of discovery. He made 4 voyages to the West Indies. Columbus's navigating skill became legendary. Once he crossed the Atlantic and missed his intended landfall by only 35 miles. When he died in 1506, Columbus was planning another voyage to find the Asian mainland. As it turned out, Columbus had the wrong figure for the size of the Earth. The Earth was 25,000 miles around, not 18,000. The extra 7,000 miles left enough room for the American continents. Columbus had discovered a world not on any European map. He himself died without ever learning the truth about his discovery. It is good for Columbus that he did find land between Spain and Asia. His ships would have never been able to cross an ocean 7,000 miles across. In 1507, Amerigo Vespucius, an Italian navigator of Florence, explored the South American coast. Amerigo convinced the mapmakers that the land was not China, India, or Japan, but a whole new world. Martin Walsenmuller, a mapmaker, gave the name America to the new land. When the Spanish rulers learned the truth, they were intensely disappointed. They considered Columbus a failure because he had not found a way to the riches of Asia.